Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. Coming up today, we learn about the dangers of driving while under the influence, and reflections this week is from Lee McMahon, Associate Minister from St John Newland in Hull. And my guest tonight is Nina Stobart, here to talk about Not Home Alone at Christmas, a charity she set up last year that has taken off. Welcome to Estuary News. I'm Hugh Richards. Time now for the news headlines.
Humberside police are trying to locate a man following a night out in Hull city centre. 20-year-old Jason Norfolk was last seen in the early hours of Sunday, December the 6th. He was seen on CCTV wearing a fancy dress outfit, including a blue blazer with British Paralympics 92 on the breast pocket, walking along Liberty Lane in the direction of High Street at just gone 1 a.m. A cheque for £2,600 has been presented to a local charity. Lincolnshire World's Riding for the Disabled received the money after Kennick Park Equestrian Centre offered Christmas carriage rides to youngsters. They're now looking for more volunteers to help put on the rides over the Christmas period. A tree of light has been planted in Brigg to help those who find Christmas a sad and lonely time. It's been put up by the Brigg Town Business Partnership for the first time, and money raised will go towards the town's carers support centre. It's now up in Chapel Court and will be there until Wednesday the 6th of January.
The Tree of Light is part of Brigg Town Business Partnership's Christmas campaign for this year. For the very first year we actually have a proper Christmas campaign, building on our usual Christmas window competition, and this was actually part of it, and we would like to raise money for a local charity which has touched many people's lives, particularly in Brigg and the villages. And
local youngsters are to star in this year's Grimsby pantomime Snow White. 22 local children from Beverley down to Grimsby are involved, and company manager Paul Webb is excited about the prospect.
They're all from local areas, as far as Cleethorpes and I think up towards Hull and Beverley. The idea was in the summer they auditioned for the company and were then given roles. Some of them are playing dwarves as well in the show, so it's very magical. I won't say what, you'll have to come along and see it, but the costumes are spectacular.
I love it, it's so much fun. It's just everything an actor ever wants to do. It's just, you know, being told there is no limit of where you can go with the characters. Extremely fun.
And that's all your news for now. You can get in touch in the usual ways by calling 01472 31553 or emailing news@estuary.tv or by searching for us on Facebook or Twitter @EstuaryTV. Bye for now.
It's the time of year when many of us might enjoy a night out with family, friends or colleagues and then drive home. Humberside Police launched its annual campaign to raise awareness of the potential dangers caused by driving under the influence, while Humberside Fire and Rescue, that is the fire brigade, hosted a practical demonstration at a local college to show younger people what may happen if they drive while under the influence of drink or drugs. Dave Nunn remains entirely sober.
It's a cold Thursday afternoon and the emergency services rush to the scene of the two-car crash in Grimsby. Paramedics are ready to treat the casualties, and Humberside Fire and Rescue have come armed with bolt cutters to cut potential victims out of their cars. Luckily, this scenario was just a mock-up by Humberside Fire and Rescue alongside other emergency services at Franklin College in Grimsby to highlight the dangers of being under the influence while driving.
Today it's an exercise just to show the dangers of driving while under the influence of drink and drugs. So unfortunately, Christmas is turning up fairly soon and people have a lot more drink than normal, and quite often they feel that it's okay to drive while under the influence, and what we're trying to show this morning is it's not.
The choice of venue isn't a coincidence. Many students at the college are starting driving lessons and are old enough to drink, which is why the demonstration took place at the college.
While it's aimed at younger people today, obviously it's a message that we would hope that the younger people take home with them and tell their brothers, sisters, parents and try and get the message passed on.
The display from the fire service was calm, collected and impressive. Within 20 minutes they had all but one of the casualties removed from the wreckage left by the crash. Unfortunately, the service say monetary and time constraints mean they can't do this kind of event more often, but think it's important to show the public what they can do.
It is, yeah, it's something we'd like to do more, but obviously there's various problems that we encounter because these are operational crews and it does actually cost quite a lot of money. So if we could, we'd like to do it a lot more, but unfortunately because of constraints we can't.
Christmas is less than a month away, and on the cold, icy nights, many people may be staying late for an office Christmas party or drinks at a friend's. The message from this very realistic and hard-hitting display is to think before you drive.
I think it's very important because even though we've been blitzed on the TV, etc., people still insist on drinking and driving and also taking the drugs, which is a new problem. So we need to make people aware of the dangers, but also the consequences as well. And I think one of the things it showed this afternoon was the consequences of the accident. The fact that there was people injured and unfortunately somebody died in the accident.
You're watching Estuary News. Still to come, it's time for another weekly Reflections, and we'll have all the latest sports news and results. Last year, a Grimsby woman decided to set up a Christmas Day dinner for those who might otherwise be spending the day on their own. Since then, Not Home Alone at Christmas has grown, with fish and chip suppers and other events planned throughout the year. To tell us more about this year's Christmas event, Nina Stobart joins me. Thank you very much for coming in, Nina.
Thank you for inviting us.
What exactly is the event you're organising this time round?
It is, as it says on the tin, Christmas lunch. So we're having a Christmas Day lunch after the success of last year's. We've had to get a bigger venue this year so we can take 100 guests, which will be fantastic. We're also doing our shoebox peel again, so we'll be distributing gifts not only to our guests at Christmas Day, via Santa, obviously.
Of course.
But we will also be distributing guests to other senior citizens who are unable to join us from Barton across to Louth.
All the way across North East Lincolnshire then?
Absolutely.
So I was going to say, when's it going to be? But I would guess lunchtime
that could
on
be
the
Christmas
25th.
Day, yes.
Okay, but where is it going to be?
Last year we really struggled for a venue, and we ended up in Miller's Indian restaurant, and the owner very generously gave us the keys, entrusted his restaurant to us, and we cooked dinner and served it there. This year we needed a bigger place, and Steve Bennett from the Oaklands Hall Hotel has come forward and offered their garden suite. So because our guests tend to eat a little earlier than the hotel guests, all his staff are offering to cook the food. They're not charging for their time. We've got the food donated again, and we're looking forward to another fabulous event.
That's a fantastic venue. Steve Bennett's an old friend of Estuary TV, of course, but that's a very fancy lunch.
It is. Well, there's very few venues that I can get in on Christmas Day that can take 100 people. So again, we struggled, but it's the local people that have made this event possible through donations of food. On minibuses, we pick everybody up and drop them off. So Dial a Ride donate their minibuses for us for the day. We have volunteer drivers, carers and nurses who give up their own Christmas Day and come and help us. We've got a local singer coming to croon some Frank Sinatra away in the morning.
A bit of Bing Crosby, I suspect.
Well, yes, he did say across the board. He's definitely a Rat Pack fan, so a bit of Bing Crosby and White Christmas I think will probably be in there as well. And he did say to Push he could throw some Christmas carols in. But it's just a fabulous event.
And who is it? You say you've got 100 people. Who is it who's coming and cooking? 100 people, that's got to be what, about 25 turkeys? Who's volunteering to come and cook a vast amount of poultry?
Well, that's thanks very much to Steve Bennett. So as I mentioned, our guests eat a little earlier, a little more of a traditional lunchtime. So we'll plan to sit down for 12 o'clock. So he'll come over to the kitchen on our side of the hotel, donate his time and the staff's time.
So you've got the professional chefs are actually doing the cooking?
Yeah, professional chefs this year. Not that ours wasn't great last year with our volunteer chefs, but it's a lot easier for us.
These are going to be the tastiest Brussels sprouts in Lincolnshire.
They should be. So we just have volunteers entertaining, chatting, serving and washing up, as well as obviously driving.
Who can come along and have dinner if people feel that they're not particularly looking forward to Christmas Day and this seems like a much more cheerful prospect? How do people get in touch?
If anybody's sat at home watching and they are on their own this Christmas, we're open to anybody 65 years or over who doesn't have any family in the North East Links area. So if you are going to be on your own, you can come along and join us. We have a Grimsby phone number for you to call, which is 01472 825 910. And my mum busily works behind the scenes and is manning that phone call. So Wendy will be on the end of that phone. For those on the social media, we have a Facebook page, Not Home Alone at Christmas. But we still have 40 spaces left, so anybody that's listening, would love them to come along and join us and have some company and
Excellent.
some fun and some good food this Christmas.
Well, it sounds, I'm very tempted just to come along myself. I've got quite a large family.
How's your washing up gloves doing?
I'm more than happy to do the washing up, but sometimes at Christmas you want to get away from the family rather than stay with them.
It's a privilege to be in that position to be able to choose, though. A lot of our guests are on their own. Some of them very isolated, that maybe haven't even been outside or spoken to anybody in days or even weeks. So it's a chance for our volunteers who give up a bit of time just to bring people together. And we've had people meet old friends. We had 2 gentlemen who used to work on the docks together in their 30s and ride the same bus. And they didn't know, they lived fairly close to each other, and we introduced them again, and they've stayed in touch
after all those years.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a chance to make new friendships too.
Will there be, I mean, it is a traditional Christmas dinner, is it? Turkey and all the
absolutely, it's a Christmas
crackers
dinner.
and hats and
crackers and hats and turkey and Christmas pudding and mince pies and chocolates and
absolutely appalling jokes.
I hope so. It wouldn't be Christmas without.
And can people have this sort of a replacement for the traditional family row?
I hope not. I hope not. Bad jokes, not a problem.
Okay.
But yes, it'll
Nina,
be a fun
we'll come
lunch.
back and talk about it a little more in a moment.
Thank
Got to go to break. Join me after the break when we continue talking to Nina, and Lee McMahon, Associate Minister of St John Newland, brings us the reflections, and of course we'll have all the latest local sports news and results. Welcome back, you're watching Estuary News. Still to come, we head to St John Newland in Hull for reflections, and we'll bring you all the latest local sports news and results. Still with me, Nina Stobart, talking about Not Home Alone at Christmas. The event on Christmas Day sounds fantastic, sounds like an absolutely wonderful lunch. And yet you've expanded throughout the year.
After we did last year on Christmas Day, contrary to what they say, we thought maybe once a year Christmas coming wasn't enough. To hear some of the stories and see the smiles and the laughter and the enjoyment that was had, we thought we should maybe try and put some events on throughout the year. So we did. We started with a fish and chip lunch over Easter, which was again a great event. We had a band, we picked everybody up again, so there's no cost at all to any of our guests. We fundraise in between, and some of our guests had a dance to the band after lunch, which was amazing. I was sat looking at a chap, and he was looking at the dance floor and the band, and I'm not exactly Strictly Come Dancing, but I said, if you'd like to have a dance and you can show me how to dance properly, let's do it. So we went and we had 3 dances. And he taught me. I did stand on his toes a few times, unfortunately. And then he came and sat down and said, that's the first time in 12 years since losing his wife he's danced.
Oh, how wonderful.
And it's just bits like that where you think, yeah, you're making a difference. You've just given up a little bit of your time and you're making a real difference. And it's great. It's as rewarding for us, I think, as enjoyable for them.
Have you seen him since?
Yes.
And have you danced since?
No, I did offer. If he could find a tea dance or somewhere we could go, I would go. But yes, we do stay in touch.
Loneliness, Christmas, of course, we always think of being a very cheerful get-together time, but loneliness is inevitable for some people, I suppose.
Absolutely, and it can affect anybody. You don't know what your future holds, and you don't know what I could be. You know, I'm hoping Not Home Alone and Christmas might be there for me. You don't know whether you're going to be happily married with a partner for the rest of your life. You just don't know what's going to happen, what fate's going to bring. So it can happen to anybody from anywhere.
But there's an inevitability, you say it's for the over 65s, there's an inevitability that you know, people don't die simultaneously, so there's going to be a surviving partner left on their own, or a surviving spouse left on their own.
I mean, our eldest guest for Christmas lunch so far is 101, which is brilliant.
If you can get him dancing, Nina, you get a round of applause.
It's a lady, and I'm sure I might get a dancing. She seemed very aware and very able. So
you started doing this last Christmas 2014, for the first time. What prompted you to set this whole thing up?
Well, it isn't just me. It's my family. My husband, my mum, and my brother. And we'd always said we should do something. We've always looked at Christmas, as I guess many families do. You sit around the table and think how lucky you are for what you have, and maybe there's a little bit more to Christmas, and then it spurred us into looking into things at the beginning of last year. And then when I was in hospital, unfortunately having a minor operation on my shoulder, my husband came to visit me, or was coming to visit me, and a lady just stepped out in front of his car. Thankfully he stopped and didn't hit her, but she told him off for stopping because she didn't want to face another Christmas on her own. And you just think,
she tried to top herself.
Yeah, and you think, what an awful position to be in. She lives in a normal street in the local area. She's got neighbours that probably don't know she's there. She had the most amazing stories to tell. My husband goes regularly for a cup of coffee and a shortbread biscuit and has a chat with her, and war stories and things are phenomenal. And she's just finding herself by circumstance on her own. And people shouldn't have to be.
No.
We all have neighbours. We all could take a little bit of time.
It's a good idea to knock on the door and go around and have a cup of tea a bit more often.
And even when you go into town and you have a cup of coffee and you see somebody sat on their own, ask to join them. Don't just look for a different table.
Quite right too. Very Christmassy spirit, Nina. Thank you very much for coming
My pleasure.
in.
Thank you very much.
And have a wonderful day.
We will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nina. Time now for the weekly reflections, and this week it's Lee McMahon, Associate Minister from St John Newland in Hull.
One of the most difficult things for any new parent to decide is what are they going to call the child. Sometimes people choose a name that sounds good or that connects well with the surname, but sometimes people choose a name because of what it means. Well, in the Bible, names are chosen mainly because of what they mean. The same with the name of Jesus, the very central character of the Bible. His name actually tells us everything we need to know about who he is and what he did. So what does his name mean? Well, Jesus means God to the rescue. So what does his name tell us? It tells us that he is fully divine, he's God, and it tells us why he came. So according to the Bible, he's fully God who came into the world to rescue us.
Joining me on the sofa is Dan Kemp to look through some of the weekend's news stories. Dan, what have you found?
Good evening. The first story is in the Market Raisin Mail. This is that 3 water rescue teams from Lincolnshire have been sent to Cumbria to help with the flood efforts there.
Well, the people in Lincolnshire, North East Lincolnshire and Northern Lincolnshire are experts on this subject.
And in East Yorkshire as well. Obviously, we've had a lot of problems over the last couple of years with flooding. And now they've sent 3 teams out there from Boston, Sleaford and Gainsborough. Of course, Gainsborough's in our patch, that's why I picked the story.
Yes.
And also Humberside Fire and Rescue have also sent teams there, as well as many others from Greater Manchester, Merseyside, etc.
Just to clarify, Humberside Fire and Rescue is the fire brigade.
Yes,
that's
what you like to call it anyway. The next story is a couple of cases of tuberculosis being discovered in Mablethorpe.
TB in Mablethorpe?
Yes.
This is Dickensian, Dan.
They've been screened for tuberculosis.
Well done.
Yes, got there in the end. They're from Mablethorpe Primary School. So they've had 2 cases registered in the neighbouring district of West Lindsey as well. And that was in the weekend in November the 8th. So the last month or so.
This is a terribly contagious disease. How could it have travelled to Mablethorpe?
I can't answer that, Hugh. Obviously...
Whatever we do,
we
mustn't blame the badgers.
No, absolutely not. And I'm sure they weren't in the primary schools either.
I hope not.
That would be a story. But of course, it can be cured with proper treatment. And some of the symptoms you need to look out for: persistent coughs that last more than 3 weeks, weight loss, night sweats, high temperatures, tiredness and fatigue, loss of appetite, and new swellings that haven't gone away.
Okay.
Which sounds horrible.
Killer in the 19th century, but easily cured these days, I believe.
We think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Next one.
Yep, the next story, this is in the Hull Daily Mail. This is a Hull takeaway, which is going to open for Christmas, which is a nice story. It's for not just for the people that have been out on Christmas Eve, but this is more for the people that are homeless and kind of need the added support. It's called Dope Burger, which is off Amlaby Road. I'd not heard of it, but apparently it's brilliant.
Could you say its name again, please, Dan?
Dope Burger.
Dope Burger.
D-O-P-E. It's my accent.
Or not Derp Burger.
Not Derp Burger, no. But it's a very serious story, Hugh.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's opening from 10 a.m. till 11 a.m. for the homeless off Amlaby Road. So obviously anyone that is alone,
Okay.
Needs the support, needs the food.
Good,
it's there
good.
for them.
We're moving further and further into the Christmas spirit, aren't we?
Yes, and the next story also related to Christmas: taxis. Everyone needs a taxi on Christmas Eve to get home, I think. Do you?
No, Dan, but
Do you not? Oh, no, you just walk home from the pub. 20,000 jobs a week are being missed in terms of taxi fares, and that's because new rules in Hull have meant that the taxi tests for drivers have become more strict.
So what do you have to do in order to become a Hull taxi driver? Is there
Well-
there's a strict exam in liberal arts and classics, is there?
Well, no, but there are English and numeracy tests. Drivers have to identify the location of at least 45 out of 60 streets, which sounds a bit of a challenge, from a choice of 5 different papers, each which have 60 streets on them.
But in London to
I was
become
going to say, it's a good job you don't live in London, isn't it?
but to drive a black cab in London, you've got to do what's known as the knowledge, and you have to learn by heart everything in London. You have to know absolutely everywhere. And every taxi driver in Yorkshire and Lincolnshire I know complains that there are too many taxi drivers. There's too much competition.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, usually when I call a cab, it's there 5 seconds later. It's like having a magic carpet. and they're all complaining because there are too many taxi drivers, and they think that they want the monopoly. They want to close it down.
There's obviously a clash there between the two sides of the Humber.
Yeah, perhaps there is.
Stories.
So your message is that if you want to travel, come south.
If you want to go south.
If you want to go south.
Otherwise, don't.
Very quickly,
Yes.
What's happening in the FA
Final
Cup? 5
story.
seconds, no more.
FA Cup draw takes place tonight. Hull, Grimsby and Scunthorpe are all in it.
Thank you, Dan. Excellent. Time now for the rest of the sport.
Grimsby Town looking to cause an FA Cup upset on Monday evening as they host League One Shrewsbury at Blundell Park. A win for the Mariners will see them enter the third round draw, where they could come up against one of the giants of English football, and we'll bring you the result and the draw in tomorrow's show. Scunthorpe United will be in the draw too, but will share their spot with Leyton Orient after the sides drew 0-0 on Saturday. Their second round replay will be on Tuesday week. Hull City will also be in the hat for the third round, which is where they join the competition. In the league, the Tigers lost 2-1 to Leeds United after a poor showing at Elland Road. The hosts were 2-0 down at half-time before Ahmed El Mohammadi gave City hope early in the second period. They remain fourth in the Championship, now 4 points adrift of second place Middlesbrough. In non-league, Bridlington Town, Barton and Cleethorpes are all vying to be in the promotion picture come the end of the season after making impressive starts. David Mann is vice-chairman of Cleethorpes and says the strength of his side on and off the field is encouraging.
I used to play for a club down in the southeast, another good non-league side with a good setup. When I came here, I could see the potential. We now have 35 sides, ranging from under sevens right the way through to a men's first team, which you're at today at Bradley, and our ladies first team.
And finally, Hull Kingston Rovers have announced their squad numbers for next season. Amongst the headline moves is club captain Terry Campese's move to 6 and Ken Seo taking number 1. And that's all for the sport.
That's all for tonight. If you have a news story, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages or get in touch at estuary.tv. There is also a phone number, 01472. What's the rest of the number, Dan?
315561.
31553. Until tomorrow, good evening.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Rix Petroleum, your local family-owned heating oil supplier this winter.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. It's breezy and cold on Tuesday with some sunny intervals, giving way to scattered showers with maximum temperatures of 12 degrees. On Wednesday, it'll be incredibly wet with some noticeable wind.
Rix, servicing the region's oil boilers this winter from a name you can trust. Get in touch at rix.co.uk or call us on 01482 838383.